Okay, so my name is Larry Bailey, and I love to do these video walkthrough of the Encompass release notes for a couple of reasons. Number one, to make sure you're actually aware of them. Number two, a lot of times it helps to hear things as you're reading them. I'm one of those people where I actually learn more through listening and seeing than necessarily reading. And then number three, it's important to knowledge share. So as I'm going through these settings, I'm going to be sharing with you the reason why some things are updating, and they're super cool or super interesting or super yawn. Depends on who you are and what you're doing. But I like to share what I know. As always, it's important to understand what you're looking at. So first of all, this is a release preview. That means these are not the actual release notes, even though it says release notes everywhere. These are the preview of the release notes. These are going to change. It says last revised June 28th. If you go down, it says last revised July 1st. I know it's confusing. It's okay. It just means that there's going to be some more versions. So obviously shows 21 pages. It's really only about 18 pages. We're going to be going through each of these items, and I'm going to be talking about them here. Again, it calls out that release preview is not the release notes. Okay. It's really important to make sure also I've got two other recordings for the Encompass release notes walkthrough for desktop. This is all about the web. Should you even be listening, watching this if you're not using Encompass Web? And the resounding answer is yes. The reason why you should be doing this is because everyone should be using something within web settings. There is a ton of power and automation and unique items that are able to leverage within Encompass Web to apply to your Encompass desktop workflow. I'm going to be going through those details, so please, please, please watch on. I guarantee you're going to take away with a lot of aha moments. And the first one's right here. So 24.1 brought us the scheduler. 24.2 amplifies that message, and now we have a little bell icon up in the top level, or the lone level top menu bar. And what's cool here is you can actually click it and you can view upcoming events also. This is important because when you've got things that are expected to happen, it might not be on your task list, right? And so it might be on somebody else's task list, but you can see what's coming up in this file in the coming days using the scheduler. So that's pretty neat. I can't wait to check that out. There's administrative movement here. We've got paired devices moved to company user setup menu. It used to be under a different spot, so now know where to look for it. And that's the update. Remember, your paired device, it uses ping. If you don't use ping through Encompass, you've got some other MFA software, then don't worry about this. Values required displayed for required fields for milestone completion. So for fields that are required in order to satisfy a requirement for milestone completion, the values not required is now displayed below the field. Value is required. So that's what you're going to be looking for. Once a value is added, the verbiage is no longer displayed. So it'll kind of give you a UI. Again, I can't wait to see that, because no longer do you have to worry about it being blue, which was always problematic for some folks. And again, like on the desktop walkthrough, we said the blue's not going to be there anymore with desktop for super admins. And so, now at least we've got verbiage on there to show if it is a requirement for milestone completion business rule. Some form and tool enhancements. First of all, the affordable housing enhancements. So this gets into the MFI and AMI limits and data. We talked about this in the desktop walkthrough. Also talked about the Get MFI button over there. Hopefully you've already watched the desktop walkthrough. If not, I encourage you to do that so you can understand the references I'm making. Also automating the data completion for counseling provider lists, so you're now able to have new options. You can this isn't new, right? It's just letting you know that it's now provided, for you to have that information in there, just in case you didn't know that. There's additional options added to the manner in which will be held. So now we've got a new pre-configured rule is added to the field data entry business rules. Naturally, this thing is not going to be active. It's going to be added, but not enabled. So you want to make sure that if you're using some other type of customization and you're not using the bar information investing input form at all in your workflow, you want to make sure that you address this. It's field 33. For those that don't know, field data entry rules, one of the neat things that rule does is change what's displayed on the drop-down list. Heads up, as an admin, it's an FDE rule, so that means you're not going to see the results. Remember, if you're doing FDE rule testing, log into a different Encompass environment with your testing user account that has the persona you're looking to test against, and that's when you'll see the FDE rule actually work. Next one is purchase support added to HMDA. So this is an update here. Purchase ticket, purchase fields now display 6. Support added for request. So the request for transcript form has been added to the web. That's important because, again, we're trying to get more functionality into the web. The ability to request transcripts for 8821 is not available through services at this time. That's a big call out. So if you're doing 8821s, you're not going to be able to do them on the web just yet. You got a new secondary registration tool. Congratulations if you're using Encompass Web. Gang, I'm going to say this 1,000 times from now until forever, probably. You got to check out Encompass Web. Honestly, I just saw it over the weekend. Wait, is it the weekend yet? No, it's Tuesday. So I just saw it over yesterday. It was Monday. I'm getting over being ill, so my head's a little bit foggier than normal. Anyway, my point is the new PCs came out with the Copilot, right? So this is July of 24. So the brand new Lenovo laptops came out with Copilot, and they're ARM-based. Why am I telling you about this now during this walkthrough? Because computers that are ARM-based will not run Encompass Desktop. I learned that little gem earlier this year, and I was not a happy camper at all, because I can't deploy the best laptops with best power management because those are running on ARM-based chips like MacBook M3s, etc., or actually any M series, but any silicon-based, which is AKA ARM-based, or the new Snapdragon chips. Again, highly technical garbage I'm talking about right now, but it's important to understand this is the reason why Encompass is moving to the web, amongst other things. It's just 20-year-old tech that works beautifully. It's time to upgrade though. And so that's why Encompass Web is important. Also on the web, we've got a new correspondent loan status tool. If you're using TPO, this is good. You've got a new affordable loan eligibility updates. So this gets back into your AMI topic up in here, which and MFI. I'm still learning MFI, so bear with me. You got a new field for HELOC qualifying payment. This was on desktop, so they rolled this out to Encompass Web also. And by the way, ENCW, if you see that, I don't know if you're paying attention to this, but ENCW means Encompass Web. So WENC, Web Encompass 24. I don't know why they didn't do ENCW. I can't always keep the naming convention straight, but that's what that means. We've also got a new calculate HELOC amount window updated, new down payment percentage. So remember, this is on the 1003 URLA lender. I don't know why it says loan information input form. That should be 1003 URLA. I guess that's a typo, but it's lender. Oh, I know why, because in web they call it loan information. I don't know why they did that, but that's a 1003 URLA lender. But on the web, it's called 1003 URLA loan information form. All right, next one is new pre-approval credit report checkbox added. This is, again, on the input form. So if you're using the bar summary origination native on the web, you'll see that. Hopefully you are, or you're using some card-based workflow that contains that. You've got the new manufacturing home with field added, same place. You've got your new index. You now have the Fannie Mae index 30 and 15-year ARM index are now retired, just like on desktop. A lock icon's added to the total down payment field, just like we learned on desktop. We've got a new field lock added to line E, just like on desktop. Lock icon added to unpaid principal balance field. Not sure this was on desktop this time, but on the FHA management input form, in the pre-qual screen, you can add there's now a lock icon that's been added for unpaid principal balance. So this is good for qualifying, I would imagine, right? You haven't run the credit report yet, so you don't really know what the balance is, but you want to make sure that you can get the file set up properly so you can at least document the unpaid principal balance for the FHA loan by using the lock icon. I would personally just create the VOL and assign it to the VOM, and then it should calculate properly, but I guess someone had that request, and ICE complied. Maybe import data added to ECS viewer. So this is that extra tab. And again, I'm referencing back to my desktop review, but now there's an extra tab in the ECS data viewer for the compliance, for the Maven report information. It's actually really handy. It's really, really cool. New FHA connection fields added. So this includes the upfront MIP dates. This is just enhancing the FHA correspondent information input forms specifically. So they've been added to the reporting database also, so that it's in there. So if you haven't, after 24.2, I imagine you're going to have to run the reporting database, even though you didn't add fields. They can't add I mean, that would be interesting if they can add the field, but then not make you run the update. That would be kind of weird, but possible. All right, so you've got a new remote online notary, or RON, for additional lending support. You've got new Freddie Mac specific versions of document custodian ID and service ID fields out there. Those are the ULDD fields. New modification loan section, same thing as desktop. Updates to Freddie Mac additional data, same thing as desktop. New fields added to New Mexico, state-specific information input form, same thing as desktop. All regs integration. So this is new for web. You can now have a button if you subscribe to all regs. You can now search for all regs with Encompass Web. Very, very cool. Enhanced conditions. You now have closing conditions information added for enhanced. So there's now an option to view or update details for closing conditions, as well as longer enhanced condition names. So just like we saw on desktop, there's several fields that have been updated to allow for 255 characters instead of what it was before. I think it was 100 or something. Workflow management updates. All right, here's get some good. I love workflow management. Created a whole company out of it. Added the ability to create notification templates for external company. This is a big deal right here. So now you can go into notification templates within web, and you can actually send out notifications to your external users. Phenomenal. That's great. Before you could only do internal, as of right now, 24.1. Now I can do external TPO users. Now if I had to use any external third-party technology to send out notifications, I no longer have to do that. Thank you, ICE. Saving me money. I love it. New options added to update service order results actions. So if you ran a workflow engine rule, you now have new options to update the service order. So that's cool. Add the ability to select multiple document folders for files attached triggering event. Thank you very much. Task date calculation calendar setting added. So added setting to enable lenders to set a default global calendar. Oh, that's cool. So rather than have to figure out your scheduler, you can just set a default global calendar. I'll be very interested to see that. And task date calendar override. So naturally, if you want to default, that's great, but also giving you the ability to override it is also great too. Type ID no longer required tasks. Thank you. Not everybody uses task IDs. That was a bit important maybe for somebody, but not for everybody. So thanks for that, ICE. Now we're in task management. So if you're not using task-based workflows, I get it. Not a lot of people do. But truthfully, it's what you should consider. And if there's anything I can ever do to help you get to a task-based workflow, even if it's department by department, reach out to me using Larry at atihelps.com. So first one is workflow tasks. Tool now displays open and completed tasks in separate tabs. That's very cool. Assignment workflow enhancements. So a new assign to me option. They allow users, and that way they don't have to find themselves. They can just say, assign me. That's cool. Disposition comments removed from tasks. So task disposition comments have been removed. Disposition changes are now also tracked in task comments history. Okay. So there's two things in a task. There's status and disposition. In case you haven't gotten into tasks, this might not make any sense to you. But the fact is they don't want dispositions being so meaningful, I guess is the best way to say it, as compared to status. Disposition, it's hard. In ticketing platforms, disposition is not status. It could be the same, but it's not always the same. Services updates. Service event mapping added for service setup. Added service event mapping. Transaction responses. Oh, so this is basically saying if you're going through and you want to understand response to creating tasks and send notifications. All right. Added service event mapping settings. So basically you can go into a service provider and identify within the provider for what has to happen based upon specific events. That's going to get interesting. We'll have to see how that looks. Services landing page, message support added. So added ability for messages to be sent to partners from a service order. That's obviously got to be supported by the partner. Drop-down navigation for service order pages for faster nav. That's just a UI update. Thank you very much, ICE. Added support for company-wide partner configurations. That's nice. That way you can just, this is really good. So again, if you've done any EPC configuration, which I hope you've done at least one, but you can go in there and now do a whole company instead of having to pick a whole bunch of users and then having to go back and add those people. Some people have gotten around this by using personas, but a super admin isn't a persona. So, or an administrator isn't a persona that was in there. So what do you do with that? Now you can add it to the whole company. New automated service ordering rules now created using Workflow Engine. Disabled the ability to create. Thank you. If you're using ASO bot rules, please convert. Please convert to Workflow Engine rules. Please, please, please. It tells you right here to do it. They're telling you they're not going to kill your ASO bot rules, but you should be killing them for ICE. New outbound document mapping enables. This is cool too. So again, if your partner's looking for, like, let's say it's the appraisal company and they want to know, they want you to send them the agreement of purchase or sale contract, whatever you call it. And that's the point, like whatever you call it. So now you can map your document to their push so they don't have to worry about mapping them to grab. You push it to them. So nice job. Added partner document settings for MI and yeah, okay. Added the ability to identify documents. Again, you want to send stuff from your e-folder to them, and then the simplify collaboration added for title and closing. Of course they're going to do that. That's great. Let's get into, we're on page 11 now. Let's get into e-folder views. We've got customizable views added to the web. We've got e-folder history added to the web. We've got delivery recognition with retrieve. So this is good. So basically when you retrieve something, you click the retrieve button. In 24.1 and prior, it would go to the unassigned, but now it's actually going to do the auto assign. So if you retrieve disclosures, it'll automatically assign them to where they have to go. Update for needed documents. And so request send documents functionality allows the user to choose multiple Encompass forms in a single package. So that's why you can do, here's a good example. Loan officer also needs a current pay stub from a co-borrower. The request should include for the borrower pair, but any additional request disclosure sent. However, only the co-borrower would receive the request. So basically you can define what you need what from whom within that request. That's pretty damn cool. We also have a new loan audit. So we're in the Encompass e-folder still. We have a new loan audit feature. There's a new loan audit button now provided. And so on the web, it's going to be based upon their user's permission, and they can perform either audits for disclosures or audits for closing. That's what that looks like. Also, send to third party. This is new. When utilizing Encompass eClose, users with the required permission via persona can now send documents. So just like we can on desktop, you can now send files if your persona says you can. Okay, we're at page 13 now, and we've got GSE integrations and services for the ULAD export APIs updated to now include the ICE extension data. Again, Freddie Mac services is being updated. You can see the screenshots on that. We're now on page 14. Freddie Mac UCD collection services also got an update, and the FHA connection case view findings. Additional fields automatically populated with the FHA findings when the results are successfully returned to Encompass, so you no longer need to manually enter data, such as submission date, submitted by, response date, response status, and error reason. If you're doing FHA correspondent, here's the fields that it includes. We're on the MI Center now, so if you're not using MI Center, in order to do that, you've got to set up your MI companies with EPC. It follows the same methodology used for services password management. You have 2 settings per MI provider. One for quotes, one for delegated, non-delegated, or MIC ordering. You now have admin settings updated, new products to display, option in the rate quote comparison. That's what this shows. We're on page 16. You've got an order summary page update and a compare rate quote update. So now includes the following features in terms of coverage percentages. You've got messages from supported MI vendors, so they can send you messages based upon stuff. And then order request method also has been added to the display. So there's lots of stuff on screen here. If you're listening on this on like podcast or something, get over to check out the actual video. We've got a services landing page update that includes for the orders as well as the reorder button, so you know what's going on. We've also got a lot of iLAD updates here in this on web as well as on desktop, but there's new mapping logic for the iLAD mapping to include for the intent to occupy data point. Last but not least here, we're rounding out the bottom. We're on bottom of page 18. For the underwriting center on the web, you now have compare and import new income types if you're using the income analyzer. You've got, again, this is like income analyzer stuff. So analyzer comparison tool, document processing status. We went through a lot of this stuff on desktop, right? So it's all about the analyzer, all in there. Loan snapshot, notification banner, and make primary progress indicator as far as the income. And the last of the fixed feature enhancements is milestone missing required data banner color updated. So the missing required data banner now has been updated from a red error banner to a light blue informational. Added archive loan options to pipeline and loans. This is to mimic desktop, like what you're used to. And update for business contacts. So you now can have a pop-up screen and it'll actually show you the business and contact information. Rounding out the bottom of this review, we've got fixed updates, file contacts updates is now saved. Pipeline filters no longer change when saving views. That's good. Negative values are now accepted for dollar amounts. Thank you very much. View only access granted, now working as expected. So if you had any business rules not working, that's been fixed. Fixed session not logging out after 15 minutes. All right, good. Fixed an issue where some sessions would not log out. So that's good because that'll keep you in a loan file. Persona enforcement for cure variance option enforced. That means business rules are now working properly for that. Opening a loan no longer results in a blank screen. I've seen that, and that sucked. And thanks for fixing that, ICE. User list no longer blank when at least one user available for roll. Okay, that sounds like a bug. Current date now highlighted when date calendar is selected, so you know where the date is going. That's helpful. Calculated custom fields now displayed on milestone requirements. Good. File contact syncing back to desktop version. That's a bug. Document mapping option now available for supported partners. That looks again like a bug in that EPC. Co-borrowers can now select intent to proceed checkbox independently of primary borrower. That's good. I don't know who does that, but apparently if you have a co-borrower doing intent to proceed differently than the borrower. I don't know anybody doing that, but I guess that's a thing. Field data no longer auto-filled. Something like Social Security. Oh, because Chrome maybe did some stuff, so they fixed that issue. And last but not least, VA loan review tool. And there was a bug in how things were saved in terms of fields and documents, and that's been resolved. So that's it, and that's Encompass Web. So thanks very much for following along with that. Make sure you check out the walkthroughs I did for Encompass Desktop. There's two of them, one for feature enhancements, one for fixed issues. And then also, if you're doing TPO, make sure you check out my TPO updates, my TPO Connect updates walkthrough. We'll see you there. Thanks.